resources on. That picture is clouded by the fact that they are embedded within Department of Fish and Game. They deal with the fact that their staff does work on non-OSPR related things, as do some Fish and Game staff, support OSPR. So there's, to our mind, an ongoing lack of clarity about exactly what gets spent out of the admin fund. As to the question of the number of inspections, what we would say is what the administrator determines is an appropriate level of inspection. That I'm not sure on what basis we would disagree with that.
Okay, but then maybe this is a question for the author.
I digress from the normal process of witnesses, and I jumped in, and then I allowed you to jump in. Can you hold it for a moment? And I know other members want.
I absolutely can.
I'll come right back to you as soon as we finish witnesses, but I have to make sure that we hear from everybody before we get too far into the discussion. So, other witness or witnesses?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members. Gus Corey here on behalf of the Pacific Merchant Shipping Association, and I just associate my comments with those made by Mr. Francois. While we are opposed, we do applaud the author for taking an interest in making sure that we are providing the best possible outcome in maintaining our environmental safety of our harbors. But there is a discrepancy, we believe, as to how much is really necessary, number one, in order to carry out these functions. And so until we can kind of clear up that discrepancy, we'll keep working with the author to as the bill moves through the process.
Okay, thank you. Any other witnesses in opposition? If not, I'm going to go back to Mr. Dickinson, and I believe Ms. Grove had expressed an interest, followed by Mr. Monning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to follow up with Mr. Huffman on the last point. I perhaps inferred, and I hope correctly, that the report by the Department of Finance that's called for in the bill would address the questions that have been raised by the opposition. Is that a fair inference to draw?
Well, I think that report, we do hope, will shed light on additional measures that we think may be necessary. And I think the discussion that we're having right now is sort of if you assume the status quo, this minimalist inspection and monitoring program they have now as a status quo is good enough, well, then maybe the projected deficit isn't as bad as some of the other projections that we've seen. So I think what you see reflected in this bill, Mr. Dickinson, is a belief that a minimalist status quo is not good enough, a process to try to get us to a more robust prevention and response program, and the tools necessary to fund it.
I appreciate the answer, because it seems to me that while the questions that have been raised can in fact be incorporated in that report, that on the very basis you've identified, it would be a mistake to wait for that and run the risk that we have additional accidents and the spills with all the damage and the cost that are included in those. That's not a risk. It seems to me that it's worth taking under what could be a calibrated fee increase if necessary to reduce that risk. And so I appreciate you bringing this bill. Our bays, our waterways, our inlets, our shore are among our greatest assets, natural assets in California, and they need as much protection as we can reasonably give them, as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you, Mr. Dickinson. Ms. Grove?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Huffman, does this fee increase on industry purely pay for government administration fees and not help with oil cleanup?
Yes, that's correct, Assemblymember Grove. So there's a very close Prop 26 nexus, which I think is where the question is heading. And this would not run afoul in any way of Prop 26.
Actually, it didn't have anything to do with Prop 26. I just wanted to know if the fee increase on industry would pay just for government expenses.
Inspections, monitoring, and enforcement narrowly related to the activity that's paying the fee.
Administration. Okay, my second question is with OSPR having one of the highest administrative expense ratios among state agencies, does any part of your bill address government inefficiencies?
Well, I don't know that I would stipulate to the high administrative ratio that you've just referenced. But yes, the audit requirement in this bill, which is a new requirement, does, I think, help give us all a comfort level that will maintain efficiencies.
Okay, then I guess my third and final question is do you believe that it's industry's job to balance the books of yet another government agency?
I'm sorry, I missed the first part. Could you
Do
repeat
you believe
that?
it's industry's job to balance the books of yet another government agency?
I think that's a rather argumentative question, and so I'll object.
It was a simple yes or no question.
Yeah, I don't want to dignify the terminology of that question. Let me just say I think it is industry's responsibility to pay for the appropriate costs of government, to regulate them where necessary.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Monty?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to thank the author for bringing this forward. I'm also encouraged by the positive response of the industries in terms of agreement with the objectives and agreement with their role in paying appropriate fees to achieve the end. So it sounds like there's still some room to engage with the industry. It sounds like they've acknowledged your work with them. I just think when we look at the objectives of this bill, and as Mr. Dickinson mentioned, when we look at the cost of one preventable spill, right there, not only do you impact the industry, we impact not only our natural environment, we impact small businesses, large businesses. Part of California's economy, the area I represent, is dependent on healthy tourism. And we know what happened in the Gulf. A preventable incident has wreaked havoc, not just on the natural environment, but on the economic health and well-being from small businesses to large businesses. So I applaud your moving this forward. I think the support of the State Lands Commission in concept further affirms those objectives. And again, I'm encouraged by the comments of the industry representatives of sharing in the objective and recognizing the appropriateness of fees supporting those objectives. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any other discussion, questions, comments? If not, would you like to close?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I also want to thank the industry representatives. We've had a very constructive dialogue, and we'll keep that door open to make sure that we have a bill that works for our environment and also for those who are affected by this regulation. But I think that the evidence is overwhelming that we need to do more to make sure that we're prepared to prevent and, where necessary, respond to oil spills in California. Part of that is going to be making sure that we have the funding necessary to support those efforts, and that's why this bill is so essential, and I respectfully request your aye vote.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Huffman, the motion is due pass to Water, Parks, and Wildlife as amended, where I'm sure it will be treated very well. Please call the roll.
Chesbro.
Aye.
Chesbro, aye. Knight. Knight, no. Brownlee. Brownlee, aye. Dickinson. Dickinson, aye. Grove. Grove, no. Halderman. Halderman, no. Huffman.
Aye.
Huffman, aye. Monning. Monning, aye. Skinner.
That bill is out. That completes the regular agenda. We have one bill on call, and then, so I will open the roll on that. That is AB 818 Blumenfield. It currently has 4 aye votes and 2 no votes. I will ask that the roll be opened, and then we'll allow members to add on to bills that votes they have missed. Please call the absent members.
Okay. That's AB 818. Motion was due pass to local government. Absent members, Dickinson. Dickinson, aye. Grove? No. Grove, no. And Ms. Skinner.
Can I ask the sergeant to let Ms. Skinner know that we're closing out on the votes, please? Thanks. Thank you. If you've completed your votes, you're free to go. If you want to add on, please come on over, and we'll accommodate you. Yeah. Want to take them one at a time, and if people gather around, that makes it easiest. Yes.